start streaming. Hopefully it starts coming through. It is. Let's go. There we go. And then we'll change it to public. We should be going soon now. I'll tell them to ready up. And then we can switch to this screen. And we'll get qualifying underway very shortly. Oh, okay. 6 people have readied up. Hopefully we can get underway because we have got an 18-minute qualifying. Then we've got a sprint race and a... What happened? Changed the lobby setting. Oh, ready up again, everyone. Oh, what? Goodness, I said don't ready up and I can't join the Aston Martin chat or whatever. This is... Oh, okay, now we can ready up. I'll go back to here. Hopefully the race will be less of a doozer than compared to last weekend. If you missed it, don't watch it. Nothing happened. Just the Williams pair need to ready up and then we can load in. Apparently there's one viewer right now. I have no idea who it is, although there are some normal suspects. But we're loading into the qualifying. Yes, that's what it's called, qualifying. Just a few more people need to select their tyre allocation, which might be interesting given that it's a sprint. Okay. YouTube's giving me conflicting information as to how many of you are watching. But we've got 1 like on the stream and that isn't me, so we're looking good. Oh, it's wet. That makes the tyre conundrum a bit easier unless it's going to rain in the sprint and also the race, and then you'll run out of intermediates because I think you get 4 and you'll need 1 for the sprint. Actually, is it a 0 or 1 stop? Zandvoort is very high tyre wear. I think numerically it's the highest wear circuit on the game. So you might need, and there's probably going to be a safety car, so for the full race, even if you jack the pressures up, which you can't really do that much at Zandvoort, you're going to need 2 sets of inters plus 1 for the sprint, so that means 3 and you have 4, so you only have 1 for qualifying. If it's wet in... Everyone's on inters. If it's wet in the race. Riding board with Hulechi, who is currently P4 in the standings after getting 2nd place in Japan. which was a race that I unfortunately was unable to commentate. And so got P7 in Bahrain, P2 in Japan, which was 18 points, and then was unable to start in Spain. I don't know if he was one of the early quitters or one of the late quitters for Spain. Using battery on the outlap, that is a go-to strat that you can only learn from the one and only go-to Mitch Snape. Means that he'll get that extra degree of tyre temp in those tyres with that temperature of tyres, and is now coming onto the main straight to start the lap, coming into turn 1, down to second gear for that extra rotation. Now coming out of the corner into turns 2 and 3. A very tricky corner, turn 3. Takes it quite tight and down low, which is one of the many lines you can take through this corner. And now going through this section, which is just about flat out in the wet. Through Schreivlach now, carrying a decent amount of speed through there. Now into the slow and snady bit of the middle sector now. Gets it on the curb and doesn't spin, which is actually quite impressive. Now coming out of the corner on the throttle, I don't know what turn number it is. We're now braking into the chicane. Now coming out of the chicane. Now it's the right-hander. I think it's a small lift, the final corner in the wet. Or I guess not, for the Williams driver, who sets at 1 minute 20.2, and I have no idea if that is quick or not. Dordovic is a bit slow, but then Imchiaz does a 18.7, which is a pretty quick lap, if I'm being completely honest. Is anyone else on that? What about... Well, McGinty's done a pretty bad lap. We'll go back and forward with Matuzak. Not Matuziak, but Matuzak. And we'll ride on board, short shifting to 5th, and even 6th gear. Which I think might be a bit excessive. Because I think you can take... In the full wet, I think 5th gear is what you want to short shift to. I think inters, though, you might just get more power and force. But I guess minimising the wheel spin minimises the chance of a spin right, eh? We've currently got 2 likes on the stream, and depending on which part of the thing I look, it's either got 2 or 3 concurrent viewers, which is nice to know. Maybe if we could see 4 likes on the stream, I would be happy. And the Alfa Romeo comes into chicane, takes first apex quite nicely, but then mounts the curb that you don't really want to mount. And now coming into the final corner, short shifting to 6th again. On the throttle, is there lift? No, there isn't, but there is a spin, and that will significantly compromise the lap with the Alfa Romeo, but fortunately seems to have avoided damage and finishes off a 1:24.5, so we'll probably do a cool down lap to recharge the battery and stuff, and then we'll go for another lap. Is Bakalik on the lap? I think so. Doing the opposite of short shifting, which is not short shifting. I guess it was the time Keeler went at Canada last season. If any of you were there for that, you'll get what I mean. Now coming out of the corner, the Haas on the throttle, is there a lift, a small lift, and also a small slide. A slight brush of the wall, it comes across the line and it is a 19.7, which is a decently competitive lap time. The rain seems to be not that heavy right now, so I wonder if the rain will stop by the end of qualifying. Is there anyone on a lap? Chaz is going into the pit right now. McGinty, I think, is just about to start a lap right now. Or is he finishing a lap? I think he's starting based off the timer. Seems like everyone's running quite high wings, not being able to hit the 300 barrier. So maybe that suggests it will also be wet in the race as well. Now coming into turn 3, and it's quite smooth. Only short shifting into third, unlike the 2 Zach who went up to 6th. Matthew Shrivelak, it's okay, I think. Could be a bit better, but it's a purple first sector according to the game, so unless it's lying to us, McGinty is going pretty quick. Now out of the long left-hander onto a decently long straight. And across the second sector split, and McGinty's 9/10 up, so this is a very quick lap right now. And the raindrops do seem to be getting a lot lighter, as I can barely see them on my screen right now. As he comes out of the final corner, a small lift. And then on the run to the line, and it is an 18.2. So a pretty quick lap. It's Dordovic on a lap right now. Well, he's out of battery, so I don't feel like commentating it. What about Dino, who is currently 5th in the championship after getting P2 last time out in Spain after McGinty got a penalty. And the Aston Martin flicks on the battery. Only doing 297 into the braking zone, so I guess everyone's running equally high wings for this track. In the inters, and coming through into turn 3, keeping it in 4th, going for a wide exit, which is a bit more realistic, although the racing line through that corner is just weird in real life. And 7/10 up through the first sector alone, which I'm not sure if it means much given that the banker was not particularly quick, but again, well, there's a spin, but the raindrops seem to be disappearing. Will it be dry enough for one round of slicks at the end? That is the question. Zeno's letting one of the Williams cars go past. I think we'll ride on board with the reigning champion for one more lap. Although this has not been the optimal start to the season, with Dino 40 points off Imchaz, who currently leads the championship, whereas last season Dino was like 40 points ahead of everyone else after winning the first 3 races in a row somehow. But using battery through the final corner, I would flick it on now, but I don't think you'll run out in the, well, it's drying inters right now. The track, I think it will be dry by the end of qualifying, enough for slicks. So the Aston Martin now comes through her sector, clips the inside curb at turn 3, which is not optimal. Short shifting to 5th. Now going through the flat out king, and it's pretty easy flat because the track's starting right now through Shrivelak. Stronger minimum speed than the other drivers, but that's a product of the drying track. Again, carrying a lot of speed through the corner. Now into the slowest bit of the middle sector, and it's very smooth. And it's got quite a bit of pace as well, I think. We'll see that across the sector line, and it is a 1.3 second improvement over the banker. Although another 6/10 are required for provisional pole, and I'm not sure that snap of the rear is going to be supportive of that aim. and it's almost flat out through the final corner for the Aston Martin, so I expect there will be a lot of time gain. And it's a 1.5 second improvement, which puts Dino barely ahead of Imchaz. However, I think Imchaz is going to be improving quite soon. What can Halechi do? Out of battery. And also down on the Delta and out of fuel. So I suspect the Williams will be heading into the garage and maybe waiting for it to switch over to slicks. Imchaz on, I think he's starting a lap now. And the McLaren. Very smooth through turn 1. Takes a medium height line through turn 3. Now coming down the flat out straight into Schreiblack. It's a purple first sector. And a 3/10 improvement, which you'll see on his Delta, that he's improving. And the track is drying out quite a bit. And he now comes into the left-hander, short shifting into 5th, which is what I would do. And now coming down into the chicane, braking at the start of the curb, so really late, using all the track on the apex, and it's a 9/10 improvement over the banker, so this will be enough for provisional P1, provided that the final corner is good. It's a pretty big lift though, probably just being cautious, as Bakalik does a 17.9 and then Imchez just smashes that lap with a 17.5, so everyone's going quite quickly. What about Fagali, who's unfortunately invalidated? On the 2 Zach, who's 3/10 up on the previous lap, is now coming into the... Yeah, it was raining at the start of qualifying. Now it is starting to dry up. What this rain will do is it will allow them to save 2 sets of softs for the race. What do you mean? By the way, we can see who's using line and who's not. Is that based off how? Look at the gaps. P1 to P10 in 2 seconds. What? What do you mean? You're confusing me. Stop confusing me with stuff, but we'll... Is anyone coming out on slicks? Tuziak and... Oh, are these the only 2 people who don't... Apart from them, only can... I don't think Racing Line gives that big of an advantage. Is anyone out on slicks? No, no. 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 Although we've still got 2 and a bit minutes. What do you mean someone is out on slicks? I'm going through the whole grid now. Everyone on track. Ooh! First person out on slicks is the Aston. So some people are out on slicks, some people are going out on... So the Aston Martins are both on slicks. Bordovich is going to be the first driver on slicks. Seems a bit of a tentative outlap. And they'll get 1 outlap to heat the tyres. And then it will be a push lap. I think he's waiting to be the last one. and McGinty's on inters. This is going to be spicy. If I was Marco, I would be... How do you warm the tyres whilst going as slowly as possible? Because you want to be the last person to cross the line. It seemed like the grip seems to be improving though. Dino's binned it on the outlap. Will he be able to get to the line? It's a minute 6, so yes is the answer, unless there's a broken wing. Which seems... The wing seems intact, although there might be damage that I can't see right now. We'll go back and board with his teammate, who's really trying to be the last one to start a lap. Although it has 74-degree tyres, so... I'm not sure this has really worked out for Marco the way he would have hoped. Flicking on the battery now. And there's also 5.7 laps of fuel in the car, which is not ideal. Now coming into turn 1, seems like there's a pretty decent amount of grip in the car. Now coming out of the corner into, I think it might, the slicks look ready, but what about McGinty? McGinty's also improving. Oh, this is spicy. Let's go back more Dordovic, who's only 1/10 up, so it might be into conditions, or it might be slicks. This is interesting. Dino has... I don't know what Dino's done. Binned it. Imchaz having fun on the slicks. It's a bit of fun. McGinty does a 15.7 on inters, but the track looks dry now and Imchaz has warm tyres, so he's able to go full throttle through the final corner. DRS is not enabled. What is the time? It is a 16.4. So no, it was not ready for inters. Or slicks. So I meant to say it's still into conditions, and McGinty is on pole position now for the sprint. What about Van Helden? Not a good lap. Let's use that. I think if you start at if Imchaz went 30 seconds later, the McLaren would have been on pole. But when the track dries out, the inters do improve in pace quite a lot. So here is our grid for the race. Only 3 people managed to set a faster lap on slicks than inters. And here's the race director. Tyres everyone used. Also, Dino is going to be starting the sprint from last. Although it is the sprint, and it will probably be somewhat chaotic. Now we're just going to load into the sprint. Will it be dry? Will it be wet? I do not know. It looks dry. Yeah, I would say this is dry, and someone's already hit the ready button. There's 2 race starts that I get to commentate. So, nice, I guess. God. Did everyone ready up? Okay, but we've got 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go for the sprint in Zandvoort, and it's a very strong start from McGinty, who will be able to hold off Imchaz. And it seems like it might be 4 wide further back, however some drivers back out to stop it being full wide, as there seems to be contact further back, as one of the Aston Martins, which is Dordovic as well as Fagali, are both around after turn 1, and Fagali's missing a front wing. But up front, they're going side by side through the high-speed corners, and Bakelit's putting a lot of pressure on Matusiak right now. He runs a bit wide, and the Haas is all up the rear end of the Williams and might go for a move, but decides to sit behind for now, as it's nose to tail all the way down from 3rd to 9th place. As we run board with the Haas, who might think about making a move into the hairpin, however thinks against it, but further back, the Williams of Quattro Hilecci is also thinking about the move. And Van Helden's also been able to stick quite close to the back of the train, as well as Dino, who's had, well, not as bad of a start as his teammate, but it seems like Matusiak is going to go for a move on Matusiak, as they're going side by side through turn 1, and then Bakelic's also going to have a look. Oh, and they're in the wall. This is not good, and there's a big crash! And Hilecci's out, Matusiak's out, safety car's out, Fagali's sped into the pit lane. It's only a virtual safety car. Bakelic's lost a wing. That was a bit messy. Okay, now it's a full safety car. So, what tyres is everyone on? Fagali's gone for hard, so either he's gone for the harder allocation, or he's decided that he wants to put a few % on those tyres before the race. I would actually suggest that if they're boxing, that they save their mediums and they save their hards, and go for softs, because the softs can make it 10 laps, especially considering that 2 of them are under safety car, and you have plenty of brand new softs because of the wet qualifying. Well, what this means is that Dino is now up to position 5, having started P11. And now it's safety car. We'll see if I think the people without a wing will box, but will anyone else box? We've got Kinnable into the pits. I don't think I would pit, because the softs aren't going to be that much better than the mediums. Bakelic's also in the pits, as well as Dordovic, but they're missing wings, so that makes sense. Will Fagali box to get rid of the not so nice hard tyres, as well as get rid of that 5-second penalty? I suspect so is the answer. Don't use that curb. Unless it's lag. Here's Fagali lagging about, maybe. Now into the pits. Gets it slowed down. It's a 60 km/h limit, and the Red Bull has decided to go for the soft compound of tyres. But also, up front, Imchaz and McGinty, they just pulled away whilst all the carnage happened behind them. And McGinty now has a safety car restart that he'll have to defend position from. I'm not sure if the safety car will be out for 2 laps or 3 laps. This is the first lap and the safety car, and it all depends on whether Fagali is able to catch up. So we'll do a qualifying lap in the dry, coming through turn 3, taking a very tight line. Maybe the internet warning line. Now into Trivelac. Carrying very good minimum speed compared to everyone else. Now into the middle sector, 5th gear. Now down to 3rd gear for the right-hander, opting to not short shift, interestingly. Now back down to 2nd gear even. In for softs and a new wing. Oh, I guess he boxed the previous lap though. Did he break his wing again? Maybe. But his teammate's P4 after binning it in qualification. That might be on for a sprint podium. at the current rate. As right now they're just making their way around on the safety car, and I suspect that Fagali will be able to catch up to the back of the train, as he's about maybe half a sector behind them right now, although the safety car in the sat message is broadcast when they cross into the final sector, which is just before the braking zone for the chicane. So it's going to be very tight as to whether the safety car's in this lap or next lap, but the safety car can be called in a bit later than the start of the third sector, which is a likely possibility as the safety car in this lap message is displayed. McGinty has very cold tyres as well. What about Imchiaz? All the leaders have cold tyres, and they bring the hardest compound. Why has my doorbell gone off? I'm not going to answer that because there's other people who can do that. We'll go on board with Imchiaz, who is right behind his championship rival McGinty right now. And they're just coming out of the bank corner. And will McGinty decide to go? And I think now is the time. And McGinty has been able to get a pretty decent jump on Imchiaz. And they'll be going line astern into turn 1, but further back there's a defensive move by Kinnable, as Bakelik's going to try and get past, however is unable to do so, as well as Dordovic, who's looking quite racy in the Aston Martin, although he gets a snap which will allow Fagali to go side by side. As on exit, I think the Red Bull will be able to get ahead of the Aston Martin, so the soft tyres not working too well so far, as they now head into Shrivelack, which is a very fast corner, which is highly dependent on mechanical grip, as it seems like Backlit is also going for a move on Robbie, as Fagali's had a massive snap, and also Backlit's going to go for the switchback in the Haas, although it seems like the Mercedes is using a lot more battery, as they almost touch in the braking zone, but fortunately no contact is made. And now coming out of the chicane and into the final corner, Bakelit's got a much better run, so might switch on the battery now to try and get past Robbie in the Mercedes, as McGinty sets the fastest lap of a 13.7, which is a decently quick lap. Not electrically quick, but quick-ish, I would say. As Backlit's trying to go for a wide line to see if he can get a better exit, but what that's done is it's invited Fagali, although Fagali just sits behind for now. However, it's all very tight, I think is the word. As Fagali makes a tiny bump with Backlit, which almost sends them both into the barriers, and then Fagali goes for a lunge into the right hander, but it's well defended by Backlit. And Fagali tries to send another one, but ends up having to back out for the corner. And now into the chicane, will there be any moves? Seems not, however, Dino's right on the back of Matusiak right now, so I wonder whether the Aston Martin will be trying to get past. And there's a brief flick of battery, but I suspect that the Williams is dumping all the battery, and Dino, even with the slipstream, is unable to pull alongside and will have to sit back for another lap. However, DRS does get an A slap, although Dino will try and go for the switchback as they're going side by side through turn 2 and into turn 3, and I think Dino's got the position as the Aston Martin takes a wide line but gets a strong exit off the corners. Well, further behind, Fagali has had a bit of a spin, and also Van Helden is currently P5 and looking to challenge for P4, so a much better race than at Spain or Bahrain. Actually, no, Cheyenne only raced at Bahrain, not Spain. Got P8. A very hard fought P8, if I remember back. However, the Ferrari seems a lot quicker at this track than in Bahrain right now. And coming into the final real corner in the dry, keeps it off the death curb and is seeing the flashing light of Matusiak, so the Ferrari knows that there's more battery in the Ferrari than there is in the Williams. Also, Dordovic is going to try and go around the outside, although now turns it into a switchback and is able to get past Robbie Kinnable, who is thinking about challenging into turn 2 but is unable to do anything as they now head out of turn 3. Through the flat out kink. And also, Van Helden might be looking to go for a move on Matusiak right now. Into the middle sector, although Matusiak will have DRS this lap off Dino. So the Ferrari might just be saving the battery for now. And also, up ahead, Imchaz has been able to overtake McGinty. And now they're just going through the final corner. Will McGinty be going for a move? The battery seems quite low and is not being used. Imchaz has a bit more, but also doesn't have DRS. But we'll go further back to Marco, who is seeing everyone ahead flashing, however is also low on battery himself, so I guess it might just be a saving game, as Fagali is able to set the fastest lap in clean air. However, there's quite a few seconds off the back of Robbie Kinnable, and is even further back behind. Actually, Robbie's in the train now, because Matusiak is being a bit of a cork in the bottle, as some people would say. No, that's wrong button. I wanted this button. He seems to be taking the corners very gingerly at the moment. I'll turn on the telemetry. We can see the throttle and everything. Yeah, seems to be taking it quite calm. Maybe he knows that he can stay in front of Van Helden. And securing a P4 would be quite nice, especially compared to binning it, although Dordovic is quite close to the back of Van Helden as well, so the Ferrari might be getting a hurry up from behind. As Marco seems quite racy on the soft tyres, although the soft tyres will start to be going off now, although Pirelli have brought the hardest compounds here, so the wear is not particularly extreme, especially compared to some other tracks on this game. Well, in terms of the pace degradation, in terms of the percentage where it's at, I think it's the highest on the game when you consider it's quite a short lap, so you have quite a lot of laps overall in the race. And Marco is right now hounding the back of Van Helden, opening DRS, flicking on the battery, although I don't think he'll be able to go for a move, so I think if I were in the Aston Martin I would have been saving it, but I guess he thinks he can go for a move. There's only 2 laps remaining, and right now it's a pretty tight train for P4, as I think Van Helden's also been able to save a bit of battery. Actually, the light just has started flashing again, so not been able to save much battery. But also up ahead, McGinty is only 2 tenths behind Imchez, so I think we'll follow on board with these two for the rest of this lap, and then after turn we'll head back to the battle behind. McGinty's going to be getting a pretty decent slipstream right now, and they're both out of battery, and it seems like Imchez runs a little bit wide through Schreiflach, which will just be inviting McGinty to make the overtake at some point, as the 2 cars are now heading through onto the other DRS straight, which I think is the 3rd longest straight on this track. Actually, how long is it? I need to go measure that at some point. But McGinty is definitely within DRS range, and will also be getting quite a bit of slipstream from this close behind, as the Red Bull uses a small amount of battery, basically all that's left, and is going to be dumping it to try and get past Imchez. However, it seems like Imchez has enough straight line speed to hold off the Red Bull and is able to keep the position. Out in the battle further back, Van Helden seems very close to the back of Matusiak, however is unable to go full move, as it's now the final lap of the race, as well as Fagali, who is right on the back of Robbie Kinnable. And he's going to absolutely send one into turn 3, but doesn't make it work and then gets a snap of oversteer on exit. So he's really pushing hard in that Red Bull. And then I had to head through Shrivelac. I need to check the other battles as well to see if there's any dive bombs into the chicane. McGinty, as DRS but isn't close enough, holds back. What about Van Helden? Coming out of the fast left-hander also seems a bit too far back and doesn't go full move. But what a... Kinnable, I think, has had a spin. Maybe Fagali sent it, maybe not. I don't know, I didn't catch it. But Imchez takes the win of the sprint race here, so 8 points for the McLaren, which doubles the lead in the championship for the championship leader. And Dino, after starting last, finishes 3rd position, as everyone has now finished the race. And I'll very quickly grab myself a drink. Fagali and Kinnable are getting a bit angry in the what's it called? The chat for the tier chat on Discord. Yes, that is the word. As now we're heading into the main race, and it again is dry. Who will start on softs? Who will start on mediums? Who will start on hards? Hello, Ryan Orange. No one's readied up yet. Just waiting for players. Okay, now someone's readied up. So you've got 30-second timer. And we will be going very shortly. Five seconds left. And 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go for the full race. And it's a poor start from Dino, who will get mugged by Matusiak on the start. And it seems like Imchez has been able to get ahead of everyone else. But I can see a wide variety of tyres, as unfortunately seems like Matusiak and Puscadia have had a bit of a tangle in turn 1. And after being P3 and 4 are now 10th and 11th, which is really not ideal. And also Fagali's had a really good start on the softs. And is now going side by side with Robbie, which didn't go too well in the sprint, however goes okay here. As right now, the race is just getting started, as there's that a wide variety in the tyres being used, which you can see here. Now they come into the chicane, and Backlick's going side by side with Robbie, and I think the Mercedes is going to have superior traction with the wider line. And there's a massive spin! And then Backlit gets caught up and loses a wing, and the virtual safety car is out. I'm not sure why. Question of whether that will be upgraded as well. It's another thing. Also, Fagali's right behind McGinty. Bobby's got 5 seconds for speeding into the pits, which is not ideal, and Dino's also in the pits, presumably for a wing swap. Also, Imtiaz on the mediums has been able to open up a 1.5 second lead over McGinty. So right now they're just heading round in the virtual safety car, but we should be getting restarted shortly. Normally the virtual safety car is about 2/3 of a lap. And it's green flags again. And Fagali is right on the back of McGinty, as well as Pilecki, who has driven into the side of Dordovic by going for an absolute lunge and has spun. Van Helden's in 5th. Also, Fagali has been able to get past McGinty, and McGinty seems to have lost quite a lot of time, so not the ideal start for the Red Bull driver, at least this Red Bull driver. The other one has had a great start and is up into 2nd, and will be chasing down Imtiaz and hoping that the tyres don't drop off too bad. But also, it seems like McGinty's hards are not firing on as much as he would have been hoping. As right now, Dordovic and Van Helden are setting chase to the Red Bull, who is currently 2nd place in the championship, and will be hoping to possibly take a win today. So now just coming through the chicane, and right now not too much is happening, but I think they're just maybe saving their resources for a later attack. As we'll switch on the telemetry, so you can see that Van Helden's got 90% of the battery, Dordovic 70%, and McGinty 46%. As Fagali sets the fastest lap and is bearing down on Imtiaz, and will be looking to try and get within DRS, as Bakelitz unfortunately had a spin out of the final corner. And also, I think Dordovic might be under a bit of pressure from Van Helden. He's shown a lot of pace this race, but as well, Fagali is now within DRS range of Imtiaz, as they are about to head into the detection point, although Imtiaz has half a battery more battery than Fagali, so I suspect that Fagali will not be able to get past unless there is an absolute send coming out of I've got an EA friend request from someone in the tier below, not sure why, but Fagali's just within the DRS range of Imtiaz, and it seems like the softs are already starting to not be optimal, let's just say. Though the DRS will enable the Red Bull to close in a bit, although the Red Bull is completely out of battery now, compared to Imtiaz, who hasn't really been using any. And there's also Dordovic, who is right on the back of McGinty. McGinty's actually been able to save a bit of battery compared to the two behind, so maybe the hards are beginning to work. Although he's lost 4 seconds in 4 laps, one of which was under virtual safety car. So unless the medium stint at the end of the race is very strong, I think McGinty will struggle to win this race, as Backlick has unfortunately had yet another spin, this time at turn 1, but has now recovered. And right now, Marco is sitting behind McGinty, although his tyres will be wearing a decent bit faster. As they now come into the final corner, and the Aston Martin flicks on the battery, maybe thinking about going for a move, as it seems like McGinty's not using much battery because he's not going particularly quick on the straight, and I think Marco will be going down the inside into turn 1, and he gets the move done. Also, there's side-by-side action for the final position, and I think Bakalik on the soft tyres has been able to get past Robbie, who is on the hards, which is not too surprising given how slow the hards are at the start of the stint. Also, for Gali is now only 4.5 tenths behind Imchiaz, so might be looking to close up and possibly go for a move for the race lead. Although the softs will die off at some point. Now he'll probably have to go for hards, although I'm not sure if he'll go for mediums or hards. Although I don't think soft medium is possible. Soft hard is like, I think at Zandvoort even soft hard is 50-50. And I don't think it's faster overall. And the age of the tyres is starting, shows Imchiaz has been able to get decently better traction in the final corner, and I suspect Vigali might just be trying to sit back within DRS and not drop out. Also, McGinty is just sitting behind Dordovic, presumably also trying to just save tyres, save battery, all of the good stuff. And Van Helden seems to be struggling a bit to stick within DRS right now. Check on the battery, and it is the case that the Ferrari, although looking strong at the start, has started to drop off in terms of pace, and is now needing to use quite a lot of battery to stay within. We've got a close battle up front. Will Fagali think about going for a move at some point? That is one of the questions. As Fagali, now through the chicane, the delta's bouncing around a bit, but the gap seems relatively constant. So it seems like the tyre advantage of the softs has definitely worn off by now, as they move on to the 8th lap of the race. And also McGinty seems to be quite close to the back of Dordovic, and he's using the battery and will go down the inside of turn 1, and I think Dordovic possibly gives up the position knowing that he'll be able to get DRS on the next lap. And also Puscadia has been able to get past Matuzak in a pretty unconventional location, so I wonder whether the Alfa Romeo behind it made some sort of mistake. As this Aston Martin right now is basically in the middle of nowhere, although there is of course the possibility of a safety car at some point, which will bunch the field up nice and tight. Dordovic as well is right on the back of McGinty and is opening DRS now, but won't be able to get past into the chicane. But as they now come out of the chicane, the Red Bull ahead seems to have gotten a stronger exit than the Aston Martin and has a 6.5 tenth lead going into the final corner. And I think Dordovic no longer has such big a pace advantage on those mediums, as well as McGinty, who's now been able to somewhat stabilise the gap to Imchiaz at about 5.5 seconds. So I suspect that the tyre crossover is beginning to happen, and we'll check on the temperatures as Marco right now is on 98 for the front left. It's only 94 for McGinty, although tyre temps are a bit easy on the hards. Figali's above 100. So, struggling a bit with temps. And Imchiaz is at 102 degrees in both left side tyres. So, running pretty high pressures, which will lower the wear a bit. Also, there's a swap of position between the Williams duo of Poitou, Halechi, and Adam Matusiak, who's actually they're actually P3 and P4 in the standings, so a decent amount of consistency from the Williams pairing. Although they probably won't be thrilled with P6 and P7 right now. They will score how many points? 14 points in total, so not bad, but also not amazing. Especially given that Red Bull right now is on track to... Oh, and Halechi's binned it and is out of the session. That brings out the virtual safety car. Does that get upgraded to the full safety car? This driver will definitely be hoping so. I think it will just remain as a virtual, which is a bit boring, I will admit. Why can't we have a full safety car? But this will allow everyone to cool down their tyres a bit. I'm just checking all the Ginty and Imches, and it's now down to 94 degrees on the tyres. As the virtual safety car's in and Bakelik's got a drive through for speeding, which is not ideal, and also Fagali seems to have lost in a very strong restart on the softs and will be going round the outside of Imchaz for the lead. And there's a bit of banging, though that might be internet related, and I think Fagali will have the lead going into the corner. So not the most ideal start for Imchiaz, and that Red Bull ahead will have some ailing tyres, so we'll start to hold up Imchiaz a bit, as the gap to McGinty is now down to 4 seconds. So I think McGinty, this virtual safety car might have played into the hands of McGinty a little bit, as Bakelik's now in to serve his drive-through, as Poitou Halechi has decided to leave the session after binning it, which I can't blame you for doing that. And the gap between Imchez and McGinty is starting to tumble a bit, as McGinty has found some pace on those hards. So I think the tyres are beginning to work in favour of McGinty now, and then when Imchez has to pit, you'll have the dreadful warm-up on the hards, which is like utterly... Why am I not covering the battle for the lead? But it seems like Fagali's been able to defend for now, and all this battling is doing is just holding up Imchiaz, meaning that McGinty might be able to get the win of this race. Are there any team tactics going on within Red Bull? That might be what's going on. Not sure though, but what I am sure about is that McGinty is currently lapping a few tenths quicker than these two. And Imchaz is really getting held up by Fagali now, as they come round onto the shorter DRS straight, and Imchaz is not close enough to be able to go full move, but will be getting held up through the remainder of the lap. And is right on the tail of Fagali, so I wonder whether he's going to go for a move into turn 1. As they're now coming out of the final corner, you'll see the flashing red light on Fagali, as Fagali heads into the pits now after 12 laps on the softs, releasing Imchaz. However, what that now means is that McGinty's only 3.4 seconds behind, and Dordovic as well. I'm not sure, I think he's just dropped out of DRS, but he might be gone for P3 or something, as Fagali's gone for hards, which are the only tyre that's going to make it to the end from here. But the warm-up is going to be not ideal in the hards. Should we see what the warm-up is like? How about no? Line more with Marco, who is right on the bubble of DRS with McGinty, And it seems that now that Fagali has boxed out of the way of Imchaz, the gap between McGinty and the McLaren has suddenly stopped falling. Right now it's very borderline between Djordjevic and McGinty as whether he gets DRS, and I think he'll be a 10th out again, which will be very frustrating for the Aston Martin, who right now is P8 in the championship. We're getting P9 and fastest lap in Japan, and then P5 and fastest lap in Spain. But right now, Aston Martin's in P3, although probably a net P4, factoring that in that Fagali has boxed already and will not have to box again, which would be the best result of the season so far. But the Aston Martin driver will also be hoping for better position for his teammate, who is quite a long way back in the race right now, after having a bit of a tangle after the first corner. And I think they'll be hoping for some sort of safety car, as I think Djordjevic is going to get DRS from the car which is a lap down of Matuzak, who will allow him to close to the back of Imchiaz, although the dirty air and the distraction is really not ideal, if I'm being completely honest. I think Matuzak might have disconnected, unfortunately. I think I noticed that the Alfa Romeo was ghosted on the grid but didn't say anything. Do you need an invite? I will send you. It says you're online. Why can't I invite you to the lobby? That is weird. I don't get it. Also, Imchiaz has actually been able to pull out a small gap out front now. Now that Fagali is out of the way. So the medium seems to be holding up quite well. Although, where should they be at right now? I'm going to get my calculator out. You should be at about 54%-ish right now, which is still well within the working range of the tyres, although they do start to go off at this point. So we might see the McLaren into the pits sometime soon-ish. But the hards really are not that quick of a tyre, although they are extremely durable, which McGinty is showing. And I think McGinty has been able to close up a little bit this lap, which suggests that the mediums are just beginning to not be optimal at this stage, and the hards have a small advantage at the moment, as Imchaz is now finally coming into the pit. So the gap was like 3.8 seconds before. We'll see what it is now, when also Djordjevic is in the pits, but we'll see what the gap is after McLaren comes out. And he's actually been able to overcut Fagali, which is good from his perspective, and he is 14.8 seconds behind, so it seems like a pit stop costs roughly 18.5 seconds here. Fagali's actually had a really poor outlap. or out laps, because in the 4 laps he's had, he's lost like 3 or 4 seconds to Imchiaz, who has also lost about basically a full second thanks to the tyre warp, although McLaren will get DRS off the ghosted Alfa Romeo as they now come out of whatever turn number that is and into this turn, and now in the flat out banked final full throttle curve, as the engineers like to call it. Imcha starts a new lap. Is there anything else going on? You might see a battle between Dordovic and Fagali, because Marco did seem pretty quick on the mediums, although the wear advantage really actually won't be that big because the hard tyres are just so robust. Also, Dino is now in the pits, put on some 1 lap old hards, and presumably take them to the end. And he's actually going side by side with Robbie Kinnable, who is on some pretty old hards, and Mercedes will have tyre temperature, which will be a pretty big advantage, especially on the hards. And Dino has lost the position, although I think Robbie will have to come into the pits again, which will mean that Dino will be P7, and then we'll also be able to get past Van Helden. So P6 for the reigning champion is really not ideal if you want to defend your title. And also Imchaz and McGinty, the gap seems to be relatively stable at about 15 and a bit seconds, as Van Helden has now come into the pits. Actually, I think Ferrari will be out ahead of Dino and Robbie, who are actually batting for position. And I think Dino will be able to get the position down the inside of the corner. We'll switch back to the interval. And Van Helden's been able to... I think Van Helden was ahead before the pit stop, so... been able to keep position. Also has the newest tyres, although 2 laps on hards means basically nothing at this track unless they're in puncture territory. Although the lack of temperature is really costing Ferrari, and Dino is going to try and swoop around the outside, and the Aston Martin is successful and also gets a dose of DRS. And Robbie is also going to try and get past Van Helden, although Robbie still needs to pit again, so I'm not sure how relevant that is. As there's yellow flag someone because Bakelec has unfortunately had yet another spin. But I think Robbie's going to go for a move on Cheyenne. Then goes down the inside. They almost bang wheels, but they seem to have made it out of turn 1 alive. What about turn 2 though? And Robbie has been able to get ahead with the additional temperature in the tyres. Although, will they drop out of Dino's DRS? I am not sure. It's actually looking quite tight, as McGinty has finally decided now is time to come into the pits. Stops in the pit box, puts on a set of mediums, leaves the pit box, and is now driving along. There's Imchez flying past. But where will Fagali be? Because I think the gap was like 19 seconds. And it's an 18.5 second pit stop. And Fagali will emerge just behind. About half a second, I would say. Although Fagali has the warm tyres. Although the warm-up on the mediums is not too bad. But I wonder whether Fagali will play the team game and sit behind, or whether he'll go for an absolute send, possibly ruining his teammate's race. But that would be exciting, and I like excitement, because I was excitement deprived after Spain. There's been some excitement this race, but not too much. But it seems like Fagali won't be able to stick too close to the back of McGinty. But McGinty is going to be chasing down Imchaz, but also further back, Van Helden is right on the back of Robbie, as Backlicks unfortunately had another spin. I wonder if there's any rear wing damage on that Haas. I wouldn't be too surprised. But right now, Van Helden is just sticking within DRS of Robbie and probably waiting for the tyres on that Mercedes to give up. And I'll check the battery, and the Mercedes ahead has quite a bit more, so has that advantage, and it seems like the Ferrari is just using the battery even if they can't go for a move, although Cheyenne thinks about it, but ends up backing out. Now into, well, out of turn 3 now. I think turn 4 is somewhere along this thing. Is Schweiflack turn 6? There's 2 of you watching right now, so you can tell me if you want. And now coming through whatever corner this is. And again, the Ferrari's using the battery, so you can be 2 tenths behind instead of 3 tenths behind. I don't get it. Just save the battery, mate. Is Robbie saving the battery? Using a bit, in fact, because he's 10% lower than last lap, although he's got a much better exit off the corner this time. And again, the Ferrari's using the battery. This does not make too much sense, if I'm being completely honest. But eventually the tyres will give up on the Mercedes. Is there anything going on up front? Imchaz driving around. Tyre temps, what are they? 96. Seeming good. What about the Ginty? Also 96. Seeming nice and chill. But Van Helden again harassing the back of Robbie, but isn't saving up the battery to go for one big attack, and is instead using it in small little attacks which are quite easily repelled by basically just, well, they get repelled by default basically. You don't even need to do anything, and they just can't go for a move, especially because it's Zandvoort. If there was a straight as long as Baku, it might be a different story. But right now, Van Helden is just a bit stuck. Also, up front, McGinty's now only... Wow, they're like 2/3 of a lap ahead. But McGinty is now only 2 seconds behind Imchaz, and that gap is very slowly declining. Although, will the tyres go from McGinty? I think they'll be fine till the end, because it's only 16 laps, and the mediums isn't that much. Also, Van Helden still stuck behind. I might just have to keep screaming at this battery malarkey that's going on. Right now, Ferrari again half a second behind, but doesn't have enough battery saved up to go for one big attack, and is instead going for these little meaningless, not really doing anything attacks. Bakalik sets fastest lap though on the softs, although I'm not sure those softs will make it to the end. Although Matuzak's been disconnected the entire race, so will get classified behind Bakalik. Oh my gosh, I remember that race last season at Spain PC4. There was a bit of controversy, if I'm being completely honest. Actually, it was very controversial. But right now, Van Helden, 2/10 behind, but can't do anything. Do you get what I mean? Is anything gonna happen? What's Robbie's battery? 71. You see? Robbie's been saving. So if Van Helden ever has a credible attack, which is unlikely, Robbie can just defend it with a bit of battery. Not even that much battery, just a little bit, and still have a massive battery advantage. Is Robbie trying to go to the end? I don't think so, because... Let me get my calculator out. Me scratching my head. The tyres... Uh-oh, migrating host. Has Dordovich disconnected? Uh-oh. Red flag. Something's gone on. What a talented game. Oh, the lobby's been... Oh wait, no. Did I get kicked out of the lobby? The lobby just split. Why don't I have the option to join game? What? I can't get into the lobby. I do not understand. I can't join off anyone. Who is the lobby host? Is it a crossplay lobby? It shouldn't be, although it might have been. This game. Just checking everyone to see if I can join off them. What just happened? Oh. What's just gone on? I think I've been kicked out. I might need to restart Steam. This is annoying. Sorry for these problems, but the game just kicked me out of the lobby. Which is not ideal. Am I able to rejoin? Nope. I could be sneaking call a red flag. I think stream might be over. Who is the lobby host? One, so I'm just counting people. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like 2 people. I've got all of them added to friends. This is not good. I do not get what's going on. This is an issue right now. I'll see if I can find stream. So I'll get the grid up through there. So McGinty, do I see him? Can't join off. Imchiaz is there but I can't join off. Regali is there but I can't join off. Matu Ziak is there but I can't join off. What about Matu Zak? It's just showing us online and I couldn't invite to lobby and was disconnected. Dordovich is there but I can't join off. Well, it's not showing in the lobby, and then Puscadia. Oh, this is not ideal. They would have passed 75% race distance by now. Since no one else complained in the chat about problems, it's not been worth. I've not called a restart. And then Backlick is there. I think I'll just have to end the stream. Because I don't have the option of joining. Okay, I think stream will be over. Bye everyone.